Does the Tesla Model Y have problems with panel gaps? Yes, it does. Hey guys, it's Gus. Welcome back to my channel. Recently, I had a viewer named Shavendra Singh ask me about panel gaps on my Tesla Model Y. Shavendra, I want to thank you for watching my videos. I also hope I'm saying your name right. It sounds like he is expecting a new Tesla soon, and he wanted to know what the exterior quality was like on my car. Congratulations on your new car. I think you're going to love it. With that being said, though, Tesla still has problems with panel gaps. This is something that Teslas are kind of notorious for. Now, as far as panel gaps on the Model Y, I think from everything I've read, the issues you're going to have, obviously they're going to vary from car to car, but there does seem to be a trend where kind of the earliest Model Ys had the most problems. These were Model Ys with VIN numbers less than 10,000 or in the 10,000 range. My Model Y had a VIN number in the 20,000 range, and it was built in June of this year. And then the latest Model Ys, the ones with like 30,000 or higher VINs, my understanding is that most of these issues have actually been addressed. Now, the most common exterior quality issues with the Model Y, from what I've seen, involve the front hood or the frunk, the wheel well arch trim, the doors and the door trim pieces, rear bumper color mismatch, especially on light colored cars, problems with the power rear liftgate, and finally problems with the rear taillight cluster. Those kind of seem to be the most common problems. Now my car mostly has problems with the front hood or the frunk and the rear taillight cluster. But definitely the front hood has some pretty uneven panel gap issues. And I'll go ahead and show that in this video. I'm also going to use a set of calipers to kind of measure the panel gaps and kind of see how the panel gaps compare to the gaps on my Ford Mustang. Also in my future videos, I'm also going to try to ramble a little bit less and kind of get straight to the point. Anyway, without further ado, let's go take a look. So the main panel gap issue that I have with my car is with the hood or frunk panel. So as you can see, this gap, first of all, it's not very consistent as it comes down the hood. But when you get over to this side, the gap on this side is much wider. So if I pan across, you can clearly see the difference. And so if we take our calipers to just kind of measure, so up here, it's actually, the gap is so small that the calipers won't even fit. I can't even fit it in. As we move down the hood here, I'm getting about 3.4 millimeters. It's a little hard to see, but the calipers are in there pretty good. I know the numbers are upside down. And then as we move over to this side of the hood, the gap here is actually massive. It is at 5.1 millimeters. And down here, we have 5.6 millimeters. So just as a comparison, if we look at my Ford Mustang, My Ford Mustang has no panel gap issues. But if you look at the hood of the Mustang, this gap up here is just about 3.2 millimeters. And down here, oops, about 2.8. Over here, over here, 3.5, and down here, about 2.9. So as you can see, the Mustang doesn't have perfect panel gaps either, but they're a lot more consistent, and visually you can't really tell unless you go in and actually measure with calipers. Now my door gaps actually look quite uniform, and also the door trim itself is, I feel, quite level. So that was a problem that plagued some early production Model Ys, but has not been a problem on my car. The same is true on the driver's side. The gap is quite uniform, and the doors, I feel, line up correctly. One issue that plagued a lot of early production Model Ys was that the wheel arch trim piece here was not actually flush with the rest of the body, but that's not a problem on mine. It looks like they've addressed that issue. So my wheel arch trim pieces sit very flush without any problems. And you can see the same is the case for the rear wheels. Another problem that plagues a lot of Model Ys is the rear light cluster. As you can see, this gap is just very large, and you know, the light cluster does not look like it's seated properly. And this is the case on the other side as well. You can see there's just a very large gap here where, you know, the body meets the power lift gate, and you can see that gap. And in fact, if you look at it kind of sideways, it doesn't look quite flush. And you can see that too from this angle. Some Model Ys had a problem with the power liftgate alignment. I feel like my gap is fairly uniform. This gap here, where the liftgate meets the roof, is quite wide, but my understanding is that this is within Tesla's factory specifications. Now, one problem that was notorious, especially on white-colored Model Ys, was a color mismatch between the rear bumper panel and the rest of the car. And apparently this was because the rear bumper panel was plastic and the rest of the car was obviously sheet metal. In some cases, it was so bad that the bumper panel was obviously a different color, like beige, and the rest of the car was white. I feel like my paint matching is not perfect, but it's probably decent enough that I don't think it needs to be repainted. It's not very noticeable in person. Well, there you have it. Panel gaps on my Tesla Model Y. Now, what do I think? I think Tesla still has, some ways to go when it comes to exterior quality. By the way, my interior is fine. I've examined it and I don't see any problems with any of the interior trim or quality. But yeah, they still have a ways to go when it comes to exterior quality, even compared to kind of mainstream non-luxury car manufacturers like Ford. Keep in mind, my Ford Mustang, when I bought it, was half the price of the Tesla. And it was also a new production model. It was a 2015. They had just refreshed the Mustang for the new generation called the S550. And my Mustang was actually built in December of 2014, so it would have been one of the first to roll off the assembly line. So yeah, Tesla has some catching up to do. I definitely think that when you spend $50,000 on a car, you should be able to expect a car without any major exterior blemishes. Now, no car is going to have perfectly consistent panel gaps, perfect condition paint. I mean, that's just not realistic and that's not possible. But at least I think whatever blemishes there are, or whatever imperfections there are, shouldn't be obviously visible. When you can see something obviously misaligned, I think that's a problem. Now, as far as is it enough to cause you to refuse delivery of your Tesla? I think that's ultimately going to be a personal decision, and it kind of depends on how much this sort of thing bothers you. Tesla is willing to work with you after you take delivery to address some of these issues, but you do have to take it in for a service appointment. You may be without your car for a couple of days, so it is kind of a hassle. It's definitely something Tesla needs to improve on as they keep gaining market share and their cars become more and more mainstream. In our specific case, I'm really into cars. I love cars. I love detailing cars. So this is something that I'm able to notice right away. My wife, on the other hand, never noticed any of these exterior issues until she saw this video. And even after I pointed out these issues to her, now that she's aware of them, she's still not bothered by them. It's just not high on her priority list. It's just not what she cares about in a car. So ultimately, it's a personal decision as to what you want to do about these issues and how much these issues bother you. Well, I hope this video was helpful. Please like and subscribe for more Tesla Model Y content. And as always, thanks for watching.